Welcome to Strange But True. Take a breath, slow down, and listen carefully. Some stories are documented, some are debated, some refuse to be explained. We tell you the stories. You decide what's true. Now, let's begin our journey. After the gods stop ruling, authority does not disappear. It changes. In the earliest records, power arrives from outside the human world. Kingship descends. Rulers receive authority. Legitimacy is granted. After the flood division, this language begins to fade. Kings are no longer described as recipients. They are described as successors. Authority no longer arrives. It is inherited. This change reshapes how power operates. Earlier rulers do not explain themselves. Their authority is assumed. Later rulers must demonstrate continuity. They trace ancestry. They reference predecessors. They preserve lists. Legitimacy becomes something that must be shown, not received. This is why record keeping expands. Lists grow longer. Genealogies become precise. Chronology tightens. The past is no longer distant and undefined. It becomes something that must be organized and defended. Law takes on a new role. In earlier periods, decree is enough. Command carries authority on its own. Later records emphasize procedure. Boundaries are marked. Penalties are standardized. Obligations are written down. Authority becomes conditional. It exists within systems. The king is no longer the source of order. He is its administrator. When authority descends, it cannot be challenged. When authority is inherited, it can. Records begin to reflect this instability. Kings justify victories, explain defeats, appeal to the past. Legitimacy is no longer assumed. It must be argued. This is why later texts are filled with references to ancestors, to gods, to precedent. The system requires reinforcement, and the more it requires reinforcement, the more visible its limits become. The gods remain present in the language of the records, but they no longer rule directly. They are invoked, referenced, appealed to. They become witnesses rather than governors. Their names appear at the beginning of laws, at the conclusion of treaties, at the edges of legitimacy, but not at the center of command. This shift is not announced. There's no declaration that a new world has begun, no rejection of what came before. The texts simply behave differently. Power must now be justified, explained, maintained, and because it must be maintained, it can fail. Dynasties end. Kings are overthrown. Cities fall. These outcomes appear regularly in later records. They are part of the system. What disappears is permanence. The earlier world did not require replacement. It required no defense. The later world does, which suggests that authority itself became unstable, not weaker, but human. This shift is quiet but consistent. Later Mesopotamian records emphasize lineage, who ruled before, who followed, who claimed continuity. Power becomes something that must be traced, justified, maintained. Law begins to replace decree. Administrative texts expand. Boundaries are defined. Penalties are standardized. Obligations are written down. Authority becomes procedural. The gods do not disappear from the records, but their role changes. They are no longer rulers. They become guarantors, witnesses, names invoked at the beginning of laws. Symbols of order are not the source of it. Kings stop speaking as gods. They begin speaking for gods. This difference matters because once authority must be justified, it can be challenged. Once law is written, it can be interpreted. Once power is inherited, it can be taken. This is the world history recognizes, a world where dynasties rise and fall, where rulers fail, where time behaves normally. The earlier world does not return, not because it was disproven, but because it was no longer necessary to preserve it. The records do not say the gods left, they say authority changed, and they never explain why, which leaves a final tension. If authority once descended, and later had to be claimed, then something fundamental about the world itself must have shifted. The records preserve that change, but they do not describe it. They simply move on. History has a way of hiding the truth inside what it chooses not to explain. Inside tales, inside myths, inside legends, inside things that feel just a little off. If this story held your attention, subscribe to Strange But True, because sometimes what sounds unbelievable is exactly where the truth hides.